my presentation is actually, I have been asking for a longer time because my paper is quite long. It's 17 pages. I tried if I will read it all. It takes about 45 minutes. If I only read passages, probably I'll get it to 20 minutes. And if I only read the introduction and conclusion, it will be some 15 minutes. But before I read some of my text, because anyway, you can make sure that I'm not doing it all, I just want to share that my interest in artificial intelligence and the transhumanism came out of a discussion that we have on a seminar with a student. And you know, the process of teaching now is not a process of the big container filling up the small containers, but it is together in a process of together learning or together studying, which means that the real education means that also the teacher learns something from the students, because this is a process. And I think that the icon of teaching is the Holy Eucharist, in which the priests, equally with the faithful, are on a process of advancing towards the kingdom. So this gentleman, this student of mine, said, did you read a book which was called Homo Deus, and written by Yuval Noah Harari? And I said, no, I didn't. And he said, you must read it, because this gentleman is proposing something that the Christian church is teaching for 2,000 years almost now. So I had to read it, and that sparked actually my interest for the artificial intelligence, and maybe in this way, how we blend what is technology, information, science, with living out really Jesus in our lives and at the workplace. The second thing is that, again, being challenged by the students about the artificial intelligence and chatbots. Just out of curiosity, I wanted to ask the chatbot something about theology, Orthodox theology, which is a curious thing for such a machine. And it gave me very, very good answers. So my first instinct was I have to resign from teaching, because that is a better teacher than me. And the students can have all information at first hand from there. A little later, I've heard a very well-known personality whose name is Jordan Peterson, who is a psychotherapist in Canada, saying that he did the same, and his prediction is that, considering the speed in which these platforms of artificial intelligence appear and they are uploaded and they develop, he predicted that in 20 years from now, more than 25% of universities around the world will close, just because they offer information and people will not need any more information in time. So somehow what I'm trying to say is that as a teacher, when it comes to artificial intelligence, the teacher should stop being the provider of information. And equally, the priest cannot be any longer the provider of information. He must offer something else to students and to the faithful. Now, reading this paper, reading these books, I just want to mention first thing that I'm not speaking about deification as immortality and the transhumanist concept of immortality, which has been used so far here, but I didn't hear the term amortality. Because what they predict is not immortality, it's amortality, which means that we postpone death. We can, but we cannot become by ourselves immortal, because you can drown, or a truck can run over you and you die. But what they predict is that we can have our life longer as much as we want. But not just longer, but also happy. And this is what is becoming very attractive, that you can live long and happy. Because being an old man for, let's say, 120 years is not an easy thing. Just think of Simeon of the New Testament, that he was very unhappy that he had to live that long as to meet and have in his arms the baby Jesus when he asked for deliverance. Now, I will focus on my paper and take a few passages because it is called Orthodox Deification versus Transhumanist Amortality as iconic representations of the human's call to the highest. The title in itself is saying that we have this inner call to the highest. We want to be happy. We want to be filled with love. We want to complete, to fill not only this life, but the future life. As we mentioned in one of the verses at the service of funeral, when we read the epistle, we say, "Blessed you are, soul, because now you are moving from death to life." Not from life to death, as if the death is the end. But from death to life, because as soon as we get born, we start dying. And we have to be aware of this. And this is probably the sense which gives sense to life, that everything is not only concerning this life, but from this life, we don't speak about life and death in Christianity, but we speak of life and life eternal, of life and eternal life. Now, as an introduction, just let me read one paragraph. The access to the cutting-edge technology and the unprecedented development of medical sciences are driving modern man's desire to question his relationship with eternity from a new perspective. Transhumanism is viewed as both the philosophy and the historical phenomenon whereby 20th century man seeks the method or path to address the need of overcoming his condition as a limited being. For theology, matters are simple, in the sense that the limitations of human nature are the result of the original sin. The fruit of man's separation from God, the source of life, and the way back is through Jesus Christ, God. This perspective, however, is not satisfactory for most human beings, especially postmodern human beings, as they pragmatically seek methods and tools to be able to decide for themselves how they should live and for how long they want to live. Therefore, transhumanist ideas reflect man's desire to maximize the potential of their body in order to extend life and achieve happiness here and now by one's own controllable means. Followers of transhumanist ideas argue that technology could extend earthly life by hundreds of years, even to no end. This is not due to a given fact, but rather to engineering, as the above-mentioned author would say, as he believes that anything that may be hacked can be rebuilt, including the human brain, as it was already stated here. This is not due to this fact, but being rebuilt means that this can also serve to eliminate death itself. In other words, I quote, "We don't need to wait for the second coming in order to overcome death." The statement is followed by the author's conviction that, and I quote again, "In the 21st century, the third big project of humankind will be to acquire for us divine powers of creation and destruction, and upgrade Homo sapiens into Homo Deus. So we may well think of the new human agenda as consisting really of only one project with many branches, and this is attaining divinity. Now I move to page number 7 for translation, because I did a whole history of the transhumanist ideas according to Nick Bostrom and others. And my second paragraph is about whether we can look at the transhumanism as a new religion. According to analysis from various fields of science, transhumanism does not emerge as an ultimate and infallible human alternative for the future, much as its followers would want it to be. Harari himself has reservations when he has to imagine what society, philosophy, or religion will look like in 2050. Professor John Lennox, a mathematician and philosopher of science and author of a book which I didn't hear mentioned here. The book is called 2084, which is a replica somehow of 1984 of George Orwell, Artificial Intelligence and the Future of Humanity. Is among those, John Lennox, who have distinguished themselves in the study of and assessment of the future of society and humanity in general under the influence of changes brought about by artificial intelligence use, and he has had a decisive role in transhumanist thinking. The book explored the implications on humanity of artificial intelligence, and he calls artificial general intelligence. Beyond the agreements and disagreements among scientists, we note that the author makes a comparative assessment of the statements of science and of the Christian heritage founded on the Bible about the human being, the soul, moral sense, consciousness, and future of the human person independent of machines. The book offers a balanced perspective on technology in relation to Christian teaching about man created in the image of God and called to the height of becoming a partner in a dialogue with God. I also go further. Therefore, for John Lennox, transhumanism appears as a parody of Christianity, presenting itself as a scientific and responsible alternative, but actually distorting and misrepresenting the human being in its relationship with the Creator, whose existence it disputes. This perspective makes us believe that we are not dealing with a mere philosophy or the outcomes of scientific research as they pretend, but with an adulterated form of religiosity for the postmodern and technological mind of the modern man. To support his assertions, Lennox provides common sense arguments such as the willingness of transhumanists proponents to believe that man can become immortal, as an atheist to the refusal to allow people to believe in God can become man, which would seem much simpler for them too. It is much more realistic to believe in one's own resurrection through Christ, who was resurrected, than the ability to create immortal man. Human intelligence, Lennox adds, although accompanied by moral consciousness, has, as at various points in history, proven to be catastrophic, creating and implementing ideologies such as Nazism, communism, and now encouraging dataism through artificial intelligence, to which it would like to entrust the governance of creation without consciousness. The presumptive effects are already visible, so that artificial intelligence has become the subject of EU regulations and is still on work to protect society and the human person in matters of private life and fundamental rights. Further on, I've been trying to speak about deification as Christification, because there is no theosis without Christ. I mean, getting to the level, to the stages of theosis, we have to become Christ-like. Then I spoke about the kenosis and Christian humility as premises of deification. And then I spoke, the next chapter was about deification as iconization. I was so surprised not to see an Orthodox icon around here, just these kind of icons, which I'm not very familiar with and I'm not feeling very comfortable with. And then I spoke about the resurrection, not only the Christ's resurrection, but every person's resurrection as the sine qua non condition and the premise for the deification. Now, let me conclude in 4 minutes, 1 minute. Upgrading the human individual is not deification as they pretend, but a parody, the Luciferian temptation to follow a path other than God's, regardless of the consciousness. The individual can become God only and only by grace, merely a self-sufficient being having mastery over oneself and the other world to a limited degree. Seen as a religion, transhumanism only reaches the level of idolatry that exchanges the worship of God for the worship of matter, or what they call God science or techno-God. While it proposes unlimited access to life, anyone can ask certain legitimate questions such as, will tyrants and dictators who have access to this process rule forever? Because if they instate a new ruling which is totalitarian and they want to live 400 years, what happens? What will those universities look like where professors never retire? Will the world population, which keeps growing, explode in terms of the number of inhabitants? Will the world population and life without end be accessible only to certain chosen ones who could afford it, looking cynically at the suffering of the others who are poor?
Sorry, Father, we don't have time.
These inquiries can lead to the conclusion that the entire concept of social organization either will be abolished or will have to completely overhauled without the guarantee of a superior result compared to the state of humanity today. I'll stop here. Thank you so much for your patience, and I can provide the text for those who want to get a more deeper understanding of it. Thank you so much.